whether it's a seller, a buyer, a landlord, or a tenant. If the person wants to have direct contact with the other side, we can't prevent it. We can share that it's unadvisable. It's unadvisable because if for no other reason, it puts someone in legal jeopardy, right? Especially a seller or a landlord. They could say something. I mean, there's some level of protection that comes with agency, right? That's why people hire attorneys. That's why people have advocates of all different types, right? They hire doctors and doctors have, patient-doctor confidentiality. There's protections around confidentiality and having conversations. They can't do anything illegal, obviously, but there are protections. And part of the protection is so that you can advise someone if they're going to do something potentially illegal, right? Or unadvisable. That's part of the protection. But if someone decides that they want to go ahead and have a conversation, if you advise them and they say, I still want to, then and they're belligerent to some degree, then rather than staying in the way of a moving train, the better strategy is just to say, okay, and then provide them the information they need. If there is an agent on the other side, to give the agent on the other side a heads up prior to the exchange of that information. If the client already has it, like on a rental application, then the point is moot, right? If the client doesn't have it, we probably don't have it either, right? We're not going to have information, and if the client wants to have that conversation, then we'd have to ask for the information, or the person's going to have to just call the other agent directly, right? And that's why, earlier in my career, I might have tried to create walls in the way of this happening. And today I advise strongly against it. I essentially do what I call join the resistance. And then I put it in writing and copy the appropriate folks. But join the resistance, let me just talk about that for a brief second. So the hardest in life, the hardest word that we can iterate to someone is no. Right? We talk about resistance triggers. And what we're trying to do in relationships, in any relationship, whether it's a personal relationship or professional one, we're trying to create great relationships, right? And when we're trying to create great relationships, what we're doing is we're trying to avoid resistance triggers, unless we're trying to create resistance, unless we're purposeful about it, right? So we've talked about things like but and, right? But is a resistance trigger. So if I say, I love you, but I hate when well, you just, the but is a resistance trigger. You've lost the beginning part, and all that people are focused on is the last part, right? So that's where the switch from but to and can be powerful. Now, that doesn't mean you never use but, right? Sometimes it's helpful to be taking the first part out. If you want to emphasize the first part is not right, then but can be a really powerful thing, right? So in this case that we're talking about, yes, you could have a direct conversation with the applicant, with the other side, but there are real problems that could cause you legal jeopardy if you have that conversation, right? So but there becomes a very powerful language tool. So some people think, well, you never use but, then you should just get rid of it. No, it actually, as part of the great use of language, the powerful use of but is, but can be a very good word. Now, Enjoying the resistance, though, we talk about what's going to get you a better relationship, empowerment or disempowerment. And then rather than get into the emotion or the inherent disempowerment that comes with us wanting to say no, let's say yes and just give them the pro and the con. As long as they're properly informed, right? That's our role. Our role as consultants essentially is to help people make great decisions for themselves. It's not to make the decision for them. It's to empower them to make great decisions for themselves. And sometimes the path to a great decision requires them to make a less than great decision, right? That happens in all our lives, right? Sometimes we have to make some bad decisions in order to learn and then make better decisions in the future.